This is also, I have with me a mystery bag with an incredibly handsome and hippogriff, the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yes.
Sliced bread's being a week before this guy was born. Yes, please. I'm that old, yes. Because I don't know what this is.
Again, mentioned.
Do any of us?
Neither have I don't know what that is.
Well, Nora, it's, well, modern pop culture can be a mystery, but we're giving this out to a person who has a insightful question at the end of the panel. So that means I need some questions. I need on editing, on personalities, on being a YouTube reviewer. Hit me with your best shot. Hit Dr. Wolf with your best shot. But don't actually hit us.
Have a lick on it. Those shoes, please.
If you can get them, sure. I went to Running of the Leaves and all I did was get hit by Pat Benatar. Yes, sir.
Yeah, who was your, where inspired you to start, first YouTube video?
Oh, what pushed us to make videos?
Go first.
I shall. Basically, obviously, even by Brony standards, I'm older than the target age range, even the fandom age range. I'm an old man. But I appreciate you saying that. But when I was working at a job where you don't see people at their best. In fact, they were pretty darn awful. So when I went home at night, prime time does not appeal to me. It's negative, it's cynical, even the comedies feature terrible people being awful to one another. Yeah, I really want that in my entertainment. Whoop the flip and do. So instead, I don't look to TV, I look to the internet for entertainment, where often it's online reviewers, shows like Red vs. Blue, Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged. And all of them were making jokes about My Little Pony. I said, hang on, isn't that the show I didn't watch because Transformers was on? I don't know what the snooze is because I'm manly things. Like where soldiers run each other and shoot lasers in the air. It looks like a big disco battle. And I said, so I said, you know what? People seem to be liking this, and these are people whose work I really appreciate. I'll check it out. So I ended up, within a couple weeks, marathoning most of season 1. And then I got caught up to Luna Eclipsed, which was had recently debuted. And I said, hey, you know, I've been consistently entertained. Some pitfalls, but nothing bad. It was when I started seeing what Bronies had created, the artwork, the music, the videos. Oh, I'm smitten. This was the most creative fandom I'd ever seen. You know, I have enjoyed Sailor Moon, Gundam, Zoids, Digimon. All have creative expression, all have a lot of really talented people, but this was like on a much higher scale and volume. So I started watching, and I hate message boards. Do not like them. They are confusing, they're usually very terse, and it's too easy to assume hostility. So when I found YouTube reviewers giving their thoughts on an episode, it's like, hey, I can hear this person. I can hear how bad their mic is. But I can hear a human being, I can get their thoughts, I may not agree, but at least I get a little feedback outside myself. Then Magical Mystery Cure happened. And 9 months, it was basically just a flame war. Even the reviewers didn't seem to really be tackling the whole issue. I was like, Isaac, let me down here. Now, I'd gotten into making comics, so I had a little more practice at graphics. And I was also going for an associate's degree in graphic and web design. More on the graphic, web design was kind of...
Oh, yeah.
So, I said, you know what? Be the change you want to see. If no one else is just going to say this could work right, this could work wrong, I'll be that guy. So I put together my first video where Silver Quill was in front of a black void. And was not, you know, first attempt is never your most entertaining. Not your greatest success. But then I did a follow-up based on the Princess Twilight debut. Then Castlemania got released by accident early. iTunes was doing that all the time in season 4. So I thought, I got a little extra time, I'll review that. And I just kept reviewing and kept reviewing. And it just sort of built up this creative energy, and I kept going. And I still enjoy it, which is important. As no matter how much I transition, I have sort of this fallback to something I enjoy and can express myself. And that means a lot.
I can remember way back in 2010,
I heard that they were remaking My Little Pony. I'm like, well, no big deal. They're remaking every show from the 80s. It's like they're trying to revive the 80s in every possible way. So I didn't think too much about it. 2011, I began to notice certain videos popping up on YouTube that were centered around MLP. I think one of the very first that I came across was the StarCraft 2 teaser trailer using clips from MLP, and it actually fit pretty well. I was kind of impressed with how well this worked, and I started seeing more videos popping up. And all the while I'm thinking, really? Really? This is becoming popular? What makes this so different from every other fandom out there? But when I started researching more and more, I began to realize this is actually a very creative and very welcoming community, as opposed to every other community I've come across online. Because I had never taken part in any other fandom online. I would browse what they were doing, but never felt like taking part. So, it was around early 2012, I decided, you know what, I'm going to start watching this show. I'm going to start seeing what all the hubbub is about.
Hubbub.
And I watched the first few episodes of season 2 because I had heard that John Delancey was voicing a character who was very much like Q from Star Trek The Next Generation. I can remember watching that show when I was a kid. And I enjoyed that.
You feel like John Delancey.
Yeah. So I got through Return of Harmony and Lesson 0 and Luna Eclipsed, and then I thought to myself, you know, I wonder what the most current episode in the series is like. And I came across Hearts and Hooves Day. And that actually turned me off to the show for about a month or two because all that schmaltzy dialogue just made me cringe the entire time.
Oh, my Snoopy.
Even today when I watch that episode, I can actually find more to enjoy about it, but I still can't stand the schmaltzy dialogue. It goes too far for me.
That's the point.
It was late 2012 when season 3 started, and I started watching the episodes as they were coming out. I began to notice reviewers at the time, and they were pointing out elements of the show that I hadn't even realized were even there. And again, I was impressed at the amount of creativity the MLP staff were putting into their work. But at that time, none of the reviewers really thought too highly of Fluttershy. Not one of them would think positive about her.
Fools.
And I couldn't understand why. I kept scratching my head. I thought that Fluttershy was a really inspiring character. I thought she was a very entertaining character. So, months later, when DigiBrony had posted a video saying, hey, I want your analysis, I was saying, I wonder how do you make a video with these computers? How do you put it online? I spent the next 3 or 4 days figuring out everything from scratch, and looking back at my first video now, it still makes me cringe because it's so amateurish. I was using a microphone that came with the laptop, so voice quality is not near so good. But I know I had something that I wanted to talk about, and I was hoping to start a discussion that might get a couple dozen people to take a look at it, and might spread the message that, hey, Fluttershy is actually a pretty interesting character. It got posted to Equestria Daily that same day, and by the next morning I had over 3,000 views, over 200 subscribers, and I'm like, I didn't intend for this to happen. I just wanted to start a conversation about Fluttershy because I didn't think anyone else was talking about it. So at that point I said to myself, you know what? I actually have some things to say about Applejack too. And from that moment, I started making 3 to 5 videos every single week without fail. I've been doing it for almost 3.5 years now. Wow. And the rest is history.
And present.
Yeah.
Neither of us expected to be at a convention in Colorado, talking about a show aimed at young women that attracted a much different audience than intended, but that also says something. And I find interesting one similarity is we weren't seeing people cover the things we wanted to talk about, and so see a need, fill a need. That's really what motivated us to get going.
Yeah.
So, further questions? In the back, Princess Celestia.
Out of the 6 seasons so far, what would be your favorite episode? What would be your least favorite episode?
Of season 6. Oh, goodness. I actually wrote up a script for my top 10 picks of MLP season 6 a few weeks ago. I got about halfway through editing, and then Nightmare Nights happened, and week-long trip happened, and this convention happened. I'm going to have to get to that eventually, but
Eventually be tomorrow.
my number one pick for season 6 is actually a hearthwarming tale. I think that is the most entertaining and even the most thought-provoking and all-around the just most fun episode of season 6, especially when you consider that most every song is just so memorable. It's something that gets your toe tapping and makes you want to listen to it again and again. Given the quality of everything they put into there, I think that is the best foot forward for season 6. As far as least favorite, though, I have to. That's really hard. I don't think there's any episode of season 6 that didn't give me anything to enjoy, because every episode has at least gotten me to laugh once. Every episode has at least given me some good character moments that I can enjoy. But there are a few episodes that I just put into the okay category. And if I had to pick one, I think it would probably be The Cart Before the Ponies. I don't think it's a bad episode, I just don't think it wowed me in really any way.
It didn't thrill me. Didn't thrill me.
No, very lucky.
You're silver, I can get it.
There you go. No time in the hole for you. The rest of you.
How about you,
it's
Silver?
too crowded. Okay, my favorite episode, definitely Gauntlet of Fire.
Yes.
This was the season of Spike.
Oh, yeah.
Finally, he's being given respect of a helpful, supportive, kind guy. It's not. Here's the funny thing: when a guy is the slapstick, you gotta feel like he deserves it. I do my best to make sure Silver Quill looks like he deserves the vicious beatings he receives. Spike does not deserve all that. But Gauntlet of Fire, Ember was a great character. We got to see more of dragons. Seto Kaiba got nothing on me. We had a great story. We had great teamwork between characters. Twilight and Rarity weren't necessarily needed. They were kind of proxies for the audience, but they were just a lot of fun. And Celestia got some lines. She actually did something, kind of. Least favorite is Applejack's day off, because not a lot happened. I mean, it's just sort of dragged out. It didn't have, even Rarity and Applejack are my favorite odd couple, and they did not have the dynamic. They did not play off one another. And then Applejack's impracticality at the end. I get the message. I empathize with Applejack. You do something that works, even though it's not the most efficient, and you keep doing it because it works. But sometimes you need someone to step in and give advice to improve. That's hard. It's hard to know that you need that advice. So, not like the episode's not lost on me, but I'm just like, I waited 20 minutes for her to dance like a chicken. So that one did not wow me. That's all I had.
Out of all of your fellow reviewers, who is your favorite, not counting each other?
Wait, you also need to add they can't include themselves.
Double R!
Oh, goodness. I have to pick favorites, huh?
We have to play favorites. I got to make
demand
me
it.
choose.
I mean, well done.
Yeah, seriously. Send it to all the other reviewers right
How
now.
do you pick a favorite? I don't know.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I don't know. Let me think.
Can I reword it to?
Hang on. I think maybe if I'm trying to think of a reviewer who is consistently entertaining, consistently thought-provoking, and just every time posts the video, yeah, I gotta watch it right then and there, I'd say that's probably Anthony C. If I had to pick one who is just consistently entertaining and consistently thought-provoking, he doesn't produce nearly as much as most others, but when he does put something out, it's always worthwhile. So, there's my answer.
Good one. giving me fewer options. Ah!
You could just pick the same one.
Well, that wouldn't be any fun.
No, what?
I will say, Josh Scorcher, Commander Firebrand, he takes a much more skit-based approach, offers a lot of fun. He argues his views very well, so even if you don't agree with him, you can have some fun with it. And I think that counts for a lot. I think that opens people up to hearing a message, whereas a lecture or derision will actually shut people down, turn them away. So, and that's why I'm very happy when I get to collab with him, because we play off one another very well. I drive him nuts. He has, hey, if you want to ship it, come by the vendor hall.
Yeah, the fact he shot you out of a howitzer.
Oh, that's just friendly rivalry.
I still ship your
That's
tail.
first base.
Normally you don't get the candle launch until the third date. But we are selling a reviewer-based expansion of Twilight Sparkle's Secret Ship Fic folder, Star Reviewers, and because of BronyCon, where I literally drove him off the stage in fright from a shipping joke.
That was me.
That was you give this.
That's why, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, you helped create the card, curse your fans, where Silver Quill is holding Firebrand in an embrace, and Firebrand is blaming you, the audience. So you forced us to choose favorites, and we chose. Let's see, I saw a hand over yonder.
So I'm mostly asking for advice. I'm new to the fandom, and I'm a new comic artist. Do you have any advice?
I'd like to start with some bourbon, maybe more from my
I'm only 18.
I'd like to start with the Michelob.
Like, how would you ease your way into the drawings of?
Well, that is a very good question, because when I started doing comics first and foremost. First one I did was right after A Candlelight Wedding. It was Twilight and her mom talking, and I wasn't very good at it. I didn't draw the ponies well. I didn't have a system. I used Photoshop instead of Illustrator. I don't know if you're pen and paper or.
I do paint tools, sire. I do them on paper, whatever
Excellent.
I have available.
Basically, I sent the comic into Equestria Daily after posting on DeviantArt. I thought, why not? It did not get posted. It did not make the cut. And that actually said, you know what? I looked at the comics that did make it and said, you know what? These folks really put in the effort. I can do better. I can do more. And so I gathered reference shots. I sketched things out. I made the designs tighter. I got better at Illustrator. When I started in the fandom, Photoshop was my main go-to. Now Illustrator is. I'm much more capable with that. And one day, I posted another one, harkening back to a Mystery on the Friendship Express. And I posted it, went off to work, didn't submit it to Equestria Daily. I thought, you know what, I'm not ready, I'm not there yet. So just keep going. I get home, and my activity count has gone from 100 to 1,500.
Wow.
And actually, no, that was when I woke up that morning before going to work. This happened overnight. And throughout the day, when I'm on break, I'm like, there's my smartphone, here's the refresh button, look at this. And the numbers were just going up and up. It was surreal. Someone had posted a link to my comic to Equestria Daily. They'd approved and posted it. Honestly, and I guess the lesson I took away from this is, one, discouragement can be a motivator. Or, not getting what you want doesn't necessarily mean that's the end. You just keep plugging. You say, okay, what can I do better? What's more? I'm intrigued by the hunt, by the process, to be better. And so even if you don't get attention right away, even if you don't make it on EQD, or you don't have a big subscription base right off the bat, people are too obsessed with instant success. This was a long process. And while I'm drawing pony comics now, I was doing fan art for anime fandoms in the past. So I got better as I went along. It's always a culmination. So enjoy the process, really. And don't worry about fame, because it happens when you don't expect it. Or it may not happen at all, but if you're having fun, who cares? That's the main thing.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see, I skipped over here. How do you do?
Yes, considering that all of Season 6 has expanded the borders of Equestria in exploring Griffinstone and the Dragonlands, And seeing all the different creatures, and being creatures yourself, a wolf and a half equine bird,
Horses for two.
what would you want to see in future episodes for some new fantastical land or new cultures?
Would you like to go first?
Well, let me think. I can remember a long time ago hearing about Lauren Faust's original vision about another race in Equestria, Viking caribou. And I find that concept just so fun. I hope they tackle it someday, but it's probably never going to happen given that it was Lauren's idea and they're trying to shift away from Lauren's ideas. And I find that a bit of a shame, but I can understand part of the reason why.
One Viking caribou. That sounds better than
That sounds fun.
loud yaks.
What about ancient Roman caribou?
Not really.
They were more the Mongolian styling. I'm not really sure. I didn't like them either way.
Right. Griffins being Vikings.
But can you imagine caribou on long ships out in the ocean? I can see that.
And you know the romance would be all over the place because they have a lot of long ships.
Get on that.
Anyways.
Yeah, I've got twofold. Because one, there's one character who we've never seen her homeland. We've never seen where she comes from. And she's pretty, and at this point, they're the only species that might be able to be equal to the ponies in knowledge and culture, and that's the zebras. I've been a little disappointed that everywhere else in the world kind of bites. And it's the ponies who bring the magic of friendship and they're elevating. It's not an exchange. And I like the idea of cultures enriching one another. Zebras might be able to give that because Sakura has done wonders for Ponyville. But, new-ish. Something we haven't seen before. In G1, there was a villain named Katrina, this cat woman. There was no Dark Knight behind her. But I would love to see a sort of a Sphinx-like race, one of whom Katrina could be a member, and maybe with an Egyptian motif to them, Sphinx styling. Basically, just think that'd be exotic, it'd be different, it'd be unexpected, and so let's face it, cats are unpredictable. I mean, they can be so affectionate, but they can be the coldest things in the world. What fantastic opportunities for friends and villains. So, that's my thoughts. Let's see, I saw a hand right there, sir.
So I know that not every YouTuber is necessarily like a YouTuber full-time. Some are. What kind of jobs did you guys do before, or do now currently?
Well, I've actually been working a job as an accountant for over 10 years now. I'm already working 40 hours a week in an office, so when I come home, I'm also putting 20, 25 hours into making videos every week.
Okay.
And because he's a accountant, we can count on him.
Well, hey, it's true fact. Continuity. Oh, hey, it's all true fact.
If Josh was here, he'd have already punched Silver Quill by now.
17 million times.
I would have Josh on the floor in the fetal position right now.
Yeah, no.
And then I'd hand him the shipping card, and he'd be like, "No!" When I got into the fandom, I was working as a paralegal, working various jobs, going through a lot of legal documents. That did not pan out, and so I switched over to graphic design. I've had a very strange resume. Started in video production, worked at TV stations for 5 years. Wanted a little bit more of a mental challenge because it had become very assembly line style. Not a lot of innovation. So I tried to work out my mind as a paralegal. That worked well, but then suddenly there wasn't the creativity. In a weird way, doing pony reviews is a mixture of both. I get to work out my mind, looking at ideas and themes with ponies as an example, while still getting to use creativity and art to express my own thoughts. Right now, I'm working customer service for a print company. People send in their graphics and say, will this work at this size? I'll review it, give them the yay or nay, try to help them choose the best products and get stuff printed, especially during the rush. I will say, no, unfortunately, it's hard to balance that because dealing with people means that sometimes there can be less energy for the videos after. It's the struggle to keep going, especially when videos are graphic intensive and you've been looking at other people's graphics all day. But yeah, in a lot of ways, working on that gives me a little grounding in my own life, because a mistake I've made in the past is to let work consume me, be my life, and that was a horrible mistake. Absolutely horrible. So, and we keep going. We'll see where this takes us. Let's see here. I've been ignoring you, sir.
Why and how did you decide on your guys' very different OCs?
Zip both.
I have always been fascinated by wolves. Even as a child, I suppose wolf has just always been my favorite creature in the world. When I started making videos back in May of 2013, I didn't have an OC on screen. I didn't have any OC at all. But after several videos, people started saying, hey, you should have a character of your own. We should be able to put a face to that voice, kind of thing. So I thought, okay, well, what should I make? There was already a consensus that if you're going to be reviewing Pony, you might as well have a Pony character, right? So I started looking through all the different races and all the other Pony characters out there, trying to think of something that might stand out, and the more I thought about it, the less I believed that I could create something that would stand out. And I already had the name Dr. Wolf. It actually made a lot more sense to just make a Wolf OC and just put him in the middle of the Pony world. And now, he instantly stands out. How many other Wolf OCs are there in this community? Yeah, there aren't that many.
Are there any?
Mainly just fans of yours.
Yeah.
That's the only one I know.
There
I
are.
was gonna say.
And for myself, when I started, I too looked around at the reviewer craze was starting to grow. I think Zach Toon Critic was posting, A&Y was going, Digi and Tommy were still posting the T-Bat Brothers, lots of ponies. I looked around and said, everybody a pony. Now I made a pony, Clutterstep, but I was like, no, I have a story for him. He is a character I want to be imagined in this world. I'm a character commenting on this world. It probably isn't good to appropriate that. So I need to be different. I need to be recognizable. I'm going to get swallowed up right away if I don't have something more. And I didn't know what to use. So I had a book, The Wizard's Bestiary. Big collection of all these mythical creatures. So I just started thumbing through, lo and behold, I hit the Hippogriff page. And I see Harry Potter was not even on my mind. Didn't even remember Buckbeak. So I thought, hey, a Hippogriff, I can still have a cutie mark, I can still be identified as Brony, but if I want to go outside, or if I want to be a little different, I've kind of got a visual expression of that. But then I was like, well, great. At that point, we had seen Gilda and Gustav. That was it. So I thought, I don't like Gustav's design. The pelican ain't working for me. But Gilda, that little beak she had, probably not. Wow, I'm like the middle porridge. One's too big, one's too hot, one's too cold, I want to be just right. So I took a look at designs for bigger stallions like Big Macintosh, elements of Gilda, and I threw in my own flair. Thankfully, I was doing an associate's degree, so part of our in graphic design, sketches were our homework. Best of both worlds. Fulfill my homework requirements, sketch out my new character. And that is how Hippogriff was made. And that's how Crusher was founded.
10 out of 10.
So, top 5 characters
Top 5.
that need a spin-off series from My Little Pony.
That need a spin-off.
Well, 5th Century could really use it. Top 5 that need a spin-off. Do the Royal Sisters count as 1 or 2?
No idea.
Yeah, let's get up.
If you're pairing them together, then that's one.
let's get a prequel series about the royal sisters as they were starting out in Equestria. That'd be fascinating.
Royal Sisters. Big Macintosh really could carry it. If you surround him with enough eccentric characters and he's the calm middle, the yep and nope,
Yeah.
that's actually kind of fun.
Okay, take it a step further. Have him traveling around Equestria with someone like Cheese Sandwich as the polar opposite kind of thing.
Oh, that'd be something.
Sort of trains and automobiles deal.
Probably some strange mission with shining armor.
Maybe.
Trouble host.
Well, I don't know, Troll Hosts, you can only take so much complaining. Let's see here.
Like he has to
Honestly-
cheer trouble shoes up.
Cadence and Shining Armor really need some fleshing out.
They absolutely do.
So, Shining Armor's done a little bit better with the introduction of his nerdy side.
Yeah.
Wow, he really is white and nerdy. But Cadence, I feel like she needs to show her best and her worst. And the only way to do that is to give her some screen time. So, okay, so we got the Royal Sisters, Big Mac Cheese Sandwich, Cadence of Shining Armor. What about the 4 ponies from Starlight's Den?
Maybe.
Or
It
maybe a
depends
name
on
to
what
that
they've
place.
been doing together, because where they are now, how much is really happening there?
Out in the middle of nowhere.
Out in the middle of nowhere. Well, maybe they're on a quest to get something to happen there.
Yeah, maybe.
We're-
I don't remember. Okay.
Trials
Next
of
time,
Salsworld.
How about spin-off series with Daring Do and a companion?
Or maybe multiple companions.
Yes.
What? Well, it'd be funny if Rainbow had, Daring Do, Rainbow Recolor. If Daring had, like, ponies that you just met in locales, they sort of would team up, part ways, and then meet again later on in the season.
Maybe.
People would
Yeah.
have their favorite duos. Let's see, I hand in the back. I think that's fine.
No, you do that one.
What?
So in the episode Newbie Dash when Rainbow Dash was like trying to express himself through her friends, what were your thoughts on that and how much did you cringe?
Well, let's see, I believe my reaction was something like, Horatio packed up his bags and left. He said, I quit.
Okay. In The Lost Treasure of Griffinstone, you have, what, 5 seconds of Rainbow Dash getting a Twilight Sparkle hairstyle and acting like her. That's funny. It's short and to the point. You get a good laugh out of it. In Newbie Dash, they drag it out and drag it out and drag it out. They go through every single character. And it really overstays its welcome. So, yeah, I would have enjoyed it if they were just doing maybe a quick fire of a couple of different characters, but that went for like 2 minutes, right?
But
Yep.
here's the contradiction. It's long and it is just, there's a Spanish term, I believe. Well, I can't remember it for the life of me. It's where you feel shame for someone else. It's that feeling. I'm embarrassed for you. I'm embarrassed on your behalf. It's also called the political season. But here's the, when I got away from the episode, I thought, wait a minute. Rainbow did talk about her friend's best qualities and what she, in essence, admires about them. Even though she did it in the most frustrating way. So
And obnoxious.
it is, in some ways, great satire. In other ways, it's not punchy enough. Faster, please.
Right.
Faster, faster, faster. Yes, sir. You sir.
So, basically, when was it you two learned of each other and started working with each other?
It's been a while. I was aware of Dr. Wolf for a good while.
I can remember watching your very first video the day it came out and putting out a comment saying, this is actually really well done. This is very thought-provoking. And I can tell you have some experience with editing. I hope to see more. Something to that effect. But it wasn't until months later that I even realized, oh wait, he's actually aware of what I do? And that was basically one of your reviews, I believe it was Twilight Time, where you
Yes.
talked about Spike as having the worst job as being an assistant ever.
The most abused assistant,
Yeah.
even more than an archer.
So at the very end of the review, completely out of nowhere, he says, maybe Dr. Wolf has an opening. I'm like, wait, what? I wasn't even aware he watched my stuff.
Shameless plug. Hey.
So immediately, no, like within the next couple of days, I sent you a message and saying, hey, that's actually really flattering that you thought of my work. Do you watch the Moment with Dr. Wolf series? I'm actually looking for people in the Moment with Dr. Wolf series. Within a month, we had an episode put out.
Yes, talking about how MLP fans have sort of adopted MLP to explore the idea of mortality. Not really talked about in the show before Tanks for the Memories, and not since, but for a while there, fans were the ones who used the ponies to tackle this issue.
Yeah.
I probably took a very long time to reply because I am awful about checking the YouTube message system. It's buried. You have to navigate like 4 pages in just to get the link to your message box.
It's the worst.
Why? But this was social media. My helper with the PowerPoints.
How do you get started with reviewing?
Well, the funny thing is, there's no one way to do it. Everyone has their own style, their own views. Some are very serious and want to tackle this from an intellectual standpoint. Bozos like me like to have comedy skits and quirky graphics and get blown up a lot. People like my pain.
Curse you, Franz!
Explosions. Watch this, Michael Bay.
Yeah, nothing on me. You can actually see what's happening in my videos.
Shots fired.
Oh my.
But my advice is to first question yourself. Why do you feel this way about an episode? It's not just, is this episode bad? Because I've learned the world's big enough, everyone has an opinion, often contradictory. I think this episode's bad. Why do I think it's bad? Or why do I think it's really great? Why is this my favorite character? And you start asking yourself that question, you learn more about yourself, and then you try to express that as clearly as possible.
That's one of the reasons I like your and other reviewers' content. I like to have a good laugh every once in a while, but you guys always bring out a topic that I didn't think about. It's always interesting to hear about.
Good, I'm glad for that. Although you boosted my ego like 10 levels. Although, if we want to talk about egos, I do want to share a quick story. We were at BabsCon 2015, I believe it was, and a fellow comes up to Dr. Wolf who is wearing his trademark vest. He's like, Dr. Wolf, I love your videos so much. They're great. I've watched every single one. I just find them so involving. And blessings on Dr. Wolf. He says, oh yes, and this is Silver Quill. Hi, Silver Quill. Dr. Wolf! That day, Silver's ego shrank 3 sizes.
I do remember that.
This guy was overjoyed to meet Dr. Wolf, and it was wonderful. And it was a good ego check for me, but it was just like, wow! Wow, dude, you are not sugarcoating this. Yes?
It's like earlier you were saying how you both really got into the show because of the fandom and how creative it was and how friendly it was. Back to the creative part, with how creative and collective it is, there are some things that are really uniformed and united in this is standard in the fandom, like mostly with the background characters. So my question is, of that collective creativeness, what would be your favorites that came out of the fandom?
Fan-created background characters.
Oh no, not just...
Well, it's just fan-interpreted
Yeah.
background characters, yeah. Okay.
Andre, the hamster on the video goes around. Oh, maybe I should get a Windows loading screen. If I could throw mine out. I've said before, Cadence and Shining Armor are my least favorite characters in the show. Not for anything they've done wrong, but because I feel like they're just not doing... We're told they're great, but we don't get to see why they're great. But fans adopted these two. We have seen gorgeous images of them going for walks, enjoying each other's company. There's this great image of Cadence and Shining are on a plateau and a Hydra is around them. And it's Shining who's keeping them protected in a shield, but Cadence looks like she's about to jump into action. Guessing she'll just make it infatuated with its own self. Glazing each other's eyes.
Yay, love magic.
But the fandom took what were, in my eyes, just toy sale pitches for the wedding show, and they adopted them to be full characters. And the interpretations have been different. It's not as uniform as, say, our views on Derpy Hooves or Time Turner or Lyra and Bon Bon. But the fandom made these characters more interesting in my eyes than the actual show.
Oh. Let me think. There was a story, a fan fiction, written long ago. This was back during season 2. So, a character like Discord, you only had those first 2 episodes. And there were plenty of people who wanted to see him make a comeback, but season 3 hadn't happened yet. He was still a full-fledged villain trapped in stone at this point. And there was a story called The Keepers of Discord that really resonated with me the first time I read it. I actually made a review of that fan fiction in my early days on YouTube, and then a while later I actually did a dramatic reading, and then a while after that some very talented artist had created custom work for every scene in that story, and it's still one of my favorite fan creations, fan interpretations of a character, because Discord did get reformed eventually, and we're still enjoying seeing how he turned out in the show, but the way this story presents him, it's so deeply touching and so believable as being the kind of change you could expect from his character, even though he's still set in stone for this story. I don't know if you're aware of what The Keepers of Discord is about.
I think I might have seen the title.
Yeah. Look up that story, because by far it is my favorite fan interpretation of a character.
I realized earlier when I answered what to consider before starting reviewing, I didn't give the doctor a chance to give his perspective. What would you advise people who want to get started on reviewing?
That's what it was. Okay, I actually made a couple of videos for people who are needing some advice on how to get started. So you can look up Dr. Wolf's How to YouTube. It's basically one video on getting started and another video on getting noticed. And I'm hoping that it is able to help a lot of people who are trying to work their way into the YouTube space, because I know competition grows more and more every single day for YouTube. And the website is just going to keep growing and growing and growing, and you got to find a way to stand out. So look that up.
Never easy. And I think we also heard that we only covered 4 possible spin-offs.
Yep.
So Royal Sisters, Cadence of Shining Armor, Big Mac, and Cheese Sandwich.
Daring Do.
Daring Do, and the 4 ponies, possibly the 4 ponies from...
Possibly, yeah.
That seems like fun. Okay, I'm just, want to make sure. I don't have to take off my shoes and count the toes. Let's see here. Applejack.
Hey, what do you think of Princess Flurry Heart?
Flurry Heart, oh. Well, now let's see here. I'm already biased against her parents because I feel like I can love, so now I gotta care about the offspring. The Crystalline didn't really wow me, and she hasn't done anything. In fact, the Crystalline kind of shut down the one interesting aspect. A baby alicorn who has magical bursts that can blow up your house just by sneezing.
Yeah.
That would have made her parents so much more interesting, because they're trying to keep Flurry Heart from destroying everything around her and trying to keep her from getting so angry that she punches a hole in the wall, kind of thing. That by itself could make a spin-off show right there. But they took that away.
They took that away, so I feel like Flurry Heart had her moments, and now she's been shut down. She was there at the end of the season, but just there.
That's it. That's all we saw him.
That's it. And I just like, is that the end? Is this the end of Flurry Heart? Will she come back for another season? Check out Same Pony Time, Same Pony Channel, maybe. We might go to Netflix, we don't know. Is it Dopey?
I have 2 questions, if that's okay. First question for Dr. Wolf. From all your A Moment with Dr. Wolf moments, who has to be your favorite patient from the reviewers? Sirocco doesn't count.
From the reviewers, not from the show characters, but from
Just
other
the
YouTubers.
reviewers.
Okay.
I'm kidding,
He loves to ham this up every single time.
Are we complaining?
You want some cheese with that ham?
Oh.
Yes, please. Extra cheese.
All right.
And toasted.
From the other reviewers, I suppose you can't really count Dr. Wolf himself, because one of my personal favorites is when I was basically psychoanalyzing my own character, my own self. But aside from that, probably the one that has left the most impact on the audience, the one that really touched me deeply when it was being written, that would probably be Keyframe and Depression, because this was heavily influenced by what was going on in her real life, but we worded it in such a way in order to reach out to anyone who is going through depression in any aspect of their life. And reading through the comments, even today, it really touches me how much we were able to help people find hope in their own lives. So yeah, that's probably the one that comes to mind.
And my second question for you, Zirocco.
Yeah.
Silly question. How many times has Hooray Celestia got you arrested from all the times you had to troll her?
Well, what time is it? I'm gonna say that I started putting notches in my bedpost, but then my bed collapsed. So
Structural
I'm gonna say,
integrity compromise.
This is the odd thing about me, and this is true of me in real life. I troll the people I like. I tease them. I drive them a little bonkers, and that's usually a sign I like you.
Same.
Which is very, very weird. I amazed people put up with it. Oh wait, they don't. I could tell you horror stories.
Oh, well, as long as you're not pranking people to the level of Rainbow Dash.
I don't think I can go. Okay, that brick in that sandwich. I cringe.
Ow!
I was like, that's not funny.
That was horrible.
Painful. But
It's just a prank, bro.
But also, what is Mr. Cake's situational awareness when he hefts a sandwich and feels a brick?
Maybe Earth ponies just can't tell their own strength. I don't know.
I don't know.
Because of the hook? Like they can't feel the brick from the hook?
Maybe it's too much.
I'm not sure, but that must have been a hearty meat sandwich. Wait a minute, was it a meat sandwich? Oh my God! The entire review of Mr. Cake is trembling.
It's a sequel to Cupcakes.
In the dirt.
Same household.
What's your guys' favorite antagonist? What do you love and hate about him?
Favorite antagonist is probably still Discord. Because even though he has been reformed, he still has a lot to learn. And he still has his villainous ways show up every now and again.
And again and again.
Yeah.
And again.
Plus the fact that he's just funny. Whenever I see him in an episode, I can't help but laugh. He's got some great lines.
For me, it's Chrysalis, who is irredeemable, it seems, and delights in it. I mean, she's the most unnerving character, and I feel validated in this because the day after Candlelight Wedding, there was an entire Draw Friend post on Equestria just of Chrysalis. In true Disney villain style, she stole the show.
Yeah.
Come on, you don't remember Sleeping Beauty, you remember Maleficent. You know, if to things about Snow White, it is when the Queen transforms into that hag. And when seeing the imposter cadence become this dark, unnatural monstrosity with that great voice pitch. She's terrifying, she was the greatest threat. Don't know what she'll be going forward, but she's that one villain you can't seem to reform, and maybe shouldn't. So, let's see. You, sir?
Dr. Wolf, does your lady really put up Christmas decorations that early? Because I approve.
She does love Christmas decor. In fact, she just loves decor in general. But I don't think she puts up Christmas decorations in October, no. She came up with the idea that if she was to walk on screen, she would be putting a Santa hat on Dr. Wolf. And I just took it a step further and said, you know what? If you put up some mistletoe, I imagine people would think that's the most adorable thing ever.
Yeah.
So that's how that idea came to be. You ma'am.
So I have some aspiring YouTubers here, and as a mom, being practical, is there any money in it?
We've been talking about this actually. At Nightmare Nights, we had people ask us about our day jobs, and a lot of our fellow reviewers said, no, YouTube is my job. And Dr. Wolf and I, we
worry about that.
Yeah.
We really worry about anyone who tries to make YouTube their only thing. As a hobby, it's a ton of fun. You got to put in a lot of work to make it go anywhere. But your primary purpose should not be to make it your source of income. Thankfully, Silver Quill and myself, we have careers. We have the primary source of our time to keep busy with. This is purely for something we do in our off time.
Such as it is.
Yeah. For anyone who is trying to make a living off of YouTube, if I had 10 times the numbers I had now, 10 times, maybe I'd consider making it a full-time thing. But even then, it's so volatile, it's so unpredictable. It goes up and down and back and forth, and the audience's choice of what they want to watch, it changes on a whim. You can suddenly find yourself that you're getting 2 to 3 times the number of views from one particular video that you didn't think was going to be all that popular. And then you've got another video, which, like in Silver's case, he could spend over 40 hours on one video. But I've done something similar on some of my projects, and occasionally they don't pull in numbers at all. It's really on the audience's whim. You never can tell what they're going to like and what they're not going to like.
But you do get paid. What percentage of your total income is your YouTube money?
Well, my YouTube channel is not monetized. Those commercials you see, that is Hasbro claiming the content within the video. They won't shut me down, but I can't monetize it. Instead, they get the money from the advertisements. And I'm like, you know what? YouTube is organized to favor the claimant, usually the big business. I don't have the energy or the time to fight that on every video. And there's also a legal battle about fair use, but YouTube is a private company, so on and so forth. Patreon, I get support through there, generous support, but it can't pay the bills. I cycle that money back into the show to afford graphics, upgrades to microphones, travel to conventions. I have a vendor table, both have a vendor table selling prints and other apparel, and that money goes back into our shows or promoting the artists.
For me, everything I'm selling here is for the artists who originally drew those pieces. I'm just here trying to support them because, like I said, thankfully I have a career that takes care of everything that we need in our daily lives. Everything from this channel, the Patreon, that goes into travel to conventions and paying artists and animators who work with me. But yeah.
So it's almost like dual lives. We take care of our personal lives with a day job, and the videos, any support we receive with great gratitude goes to the videos themselves to hopefully enrich the people who contributed in the first place.
There's one more thing I wanted to mention here. I have made a lot more videos than Silver Quill, like I think it's over 700 by now, but I've had at least a couple hundred, maybe even as many as 300 of those videos claimed by Hasbro. And they've put advertisements on them, and I don't see a cent from that. I have, within the past year, taken a more active stance on claiming and counterclaiming. And eventually it does make a difference, but even then you can spend 20 hours on a video and you might get a few dollars within its first week. And after that you might get pennies a day. Might.
The life of a YouTube video is really 3 days of activity upon release, and then on much harder to predict repeat viewing. People take a lot of activity when a video is new, but then it sort of trickles off. And because the claim system is so instantaneous, it takes a while to resolve. They can't shut you down for those 3 critical days. Angry Joe has been one of the most vocal critics, and he's made it clear if he doesn't get those 3 days where he monetizes, he doesn't get paid. And you know, a lot of the reviewers online, people look to them as proof you can make this, but they came along at like just the right moment when YouTube was in its infancy. Really, they have a huge audience because they were some of the first, and it's harder now, much harder. So I think it's a mistake to expect instant success or assume that you can just be an independent agent doing YouTube videos. Backup plans are good.
Yeah.
That is not to discourage people from making content. The first thing you do is you do something you enjoy. Money can come from a part-time job. You can make it work. Creativity needs an outlet. Yes, sir.
I wanted to add something onto that, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So I'm currently working on my master's degree in sound engineering. I record people for a living.
Thank you.
And what I've learned is a lot of artists support themselves by being the support basis for other artists. So like, if you want to make money in music, it's probably not going to be your music that makes money, it's going to be your recording other people or doing those services for them. My friend Charlie doesn't make money as an actor, though that's his passion. He makes money as the guy who does the lighting for theaters and setting up all the cabling and wiring. If you really want to pursue an artistic career, you'll always have, you know, another job. But if you align it correctly, it can still be something you love. My favorite example is the lead singer of Iron Maiden is a scuba instructor. And, you know, he's happy.
So you're saying he's just blowing air?
Yeah.
I'm trying to envision a scuba diver with the bubbles bursting on the surface going,
Just Eddie's just scuba diving.
What's Eddie got to do with this? Where are Ed and Ed?
Eddie's the skeleton from the Iron Maiden covers.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Sorry, if it's not Sans from Papyrus, I just can't follow.
Considering that My Little Pony is a lot of one-shot stories of different scenarios and whatnot, would you want to see more of the one-shots or an actual series where they have the whole storyline drawn across all the episodes?
There's a reason I made a meme out of continuity. It's because I don't expect it. I grew up on Transformers and G.I. Joe, which were also, you'd think they would be an overarching story, but really the Autobots and Decepticons just went back and forth and never got anything done until the movie, when they traumatized me. So I'm used to the slice of life stuff, and I think that's this show's charm. You can jump in and out and really not lose a lot of context, except maybe, hey, Twilight's got wings now. What?
That doesn't make a shock.
Equestria is this grand mystical world. I feel like there's a lot of adventure potential, but the main 6 as they are now aren't the ponies that have that overarching story. You'd need a new cast or at least one new character traveling the land. You can't confine it to Ponyville. Ponyville works as a slice of life locale.
If I were to see a more overarching story in MLP, I think that the main 7 would have to move to a different location. Like, let's say they did want to introduce the zebra country. Let's say that as part of a long-standing diplomatic mission, the main 7 set up on the border between Equestria and this zebra country. And there's plenty more that you can do in these new lands, introducing new creatures and perhaps new races. And yeah, I could see something like that working, because if you're out of Ponyville, it doesn't have to be as much slice of life. And let's say if you want to go back to slice of life every now and then, like say the CMC start missing their sisters and want to start writing letters to them, you could do like 1 or 2 episodes at a time back in Ponyville, showing how it affects the town without the main 7 there. I could see that working.
Turns out Ponyville's much less destruction without the main 6.
And you know that is very true.
That's very true. Guys, I'm sorry, we are technically over time once again. I'm bad at the clock apparently. So if you want to continue these conversations, we'd love to talk with you. We'll be at the vendor hall table, but we're at the back, so there's room to have conversations. Both for a very insightful question as young hopeful and for helping me with my presentation.
What is it?
Guys, we hope you have a fantastic time at the convention. Have fun. Enjoy. Pony up.